Okay, so we'll get this kicked off. I'm Kaylee. I am a talent acquisition specialist with Bish's RV, and we are hosting info sessions throughout February and March to kind of give everyone an idea of who we are and what we have to offer, and maybe how your degree might fall into what we're doing in the RV industry. And so today we have David Platt. He's going to be talking and touching on technology. So feel free to type any questions in the chat, and we'll address them at the end. And we'll kind of just get started. David, if you want to kick it off.
Yeah, go ahead. Next slide. So you already mentioned the questions, so we can sort of go ahead to the agenda. So I think there was one more on there. So on the agenda, there was really two things I wanted to walk you guys through. So one, as an RV company and being a technologist, one of the big questions for me when I decided to come here was, why Bish's and what's unique about Bish's and the opportunities here. On the second part of that is I'd like to walk through our team, the kinds of things we do here, the kind of technology roles that are available to a company like ours, whether Bish's is a place where you are just thinking about your career as you move into the next steps, sort of understanding the kinds of things that technology teams do in businesses like ours is, hopefully helpful for you. So with that, we'll go ahead. A little bit about me first. I obviously oversee the technology teams. I'm old because I graduated in the 90s, and all of you are not graduating in the 90s. So I'll just I've been doing this for about 30 years. I had the luxury of going to RIT, which was a great school. I was actually originally a computational mathematics major, decided to just move comp sci to a minor and focus on the math because all the internships I was doing were in development anyway. So the way that RIT worked is you could start doing internships after your second year. So I actually landed a full-time software development gig as a 19-year-old and paid my way through the rest of my college, came out with 3 years full-time experience, and then was able to parlay that into I was a consultant for about 6 years. I was in my early 20s, making six figures, working at home. And this is back in the dot-com era. And then eventually moved to Idaho, where I'm at now, and went to a company called Nitro Security. They did intrusion detection and prevention systems and SIMs and things like that. Some of the things I worked on before that were like statistical process control software. So some fun, really technical projects. And then after I left Nitro, which was acquired by McAfee, I went to a company called DocuTech, and DocuTech it's now the premier provider in the country for origination mortgage documentation. So for example, if you're going to go get a home loan, and you need someone's got to produce the documents associated with, what's the property, what's your credit scores, what's your risk, information, all the things about a loan, rates and payments and all those things. We were basically the extension of all the mortgage lenders to deliver those things. When I started there, we were a team of 18 people total. When I left, we were 150. My group grew from 3 people to like 50, 60-ish. And we went from doing about 1% of the loans in the country to like a third of all loans in the country went through our platform. We were eventually acquired by First American for $350 million. And that was a big company. I'm a small company guy, decided to look for my next opportunity, which brought me to the Bish's opportunity. My family's on the right there. I got 3 awesome daughters, a son-in-law, and my little grandbaby that looks like Jack, who is the joy of our world, and my awesome wife, Jamie. So next slide. So I thought one of the ways to walk you guys through like what's different about Bish's and why would someone consider Bish's. I know for me, the technologist, when they originally hit me up, I was like, RV company, technology, I don't quite see the connection. It's not the most technologically advanced industry. So I had to really understand the opportunity. But as I dove in and understood what was going on here, it sort of shocked me, to be honest with you, to see what was going on, the team they had, the things they were already starting to do. And so I'll walk you through a little bit of that so you understand like why technology is exciting at Bish's. So the first thing was it's really a greenfield opportunity. So the technologist, you may go your whole career and never get to work on a project from the starting point. It's I've been lucky enough to work at several small companies and start on the ground floor of several things, but there's always something really cool about being able to just, we're going to build something the right way, build it with the newest technologies, build it the way that it should be, instead of inheriting somebody else's platform, something that's legacy, bug fixing, that's just not as cool or as fun as a technologist. That said, the one problem with most companies that are starting something new is that they're usually a startup. And so what happens is funding is a problem. And so one of the questions I worked through as I vetted Bish's was, this is already a profitable business. This is a business that's been around for 20 plus years. So, or 30 years, I guess. So they already know how to run their business. They already know how to make money. So are they really committed to technology, and are they willing to invest in it the way that it needs to be invested in? And that was the great thing about here. We have the perks of that startup mentality where we can build new great tech, but we have the security of a profitable company backing it. So it's sort of like the best of both worlds. The other thing here is, and the way I would describe it, is there's just a lot of low hanging fruit. So we've built a team of people from various industries that have had great success in other industries and have helped to transform other companies or technologies. And now we can bring it to this area that is so rich with opportunity. And there's so many things that we can do where we can leverage technology and data to really revolutionize the customer experience in this space. Next slide. The other thing that was really important for me is how do I know this company is going to grow? How do I know that, maybe they have money today, but I don't know anything about this company. Are they going to continue to be profitable? Are they continue to grow? What's their growth story? So really looking at Bish's in 2019, like I said, I think they started in 1991, but in 2019, there was a decision made where they put in a board of directors and they did various things to really kick up the investment, start to move into doing acquisitions. So from our perspective, not only are they growing organically, so within the footprints of where they're at, they're capturing market share. We're helping them through technology to be more efficient, cost effective, so we can become more profitable where we stand. But additionally, we're continuing to very selectively, we're not trying to be the biggest, we're just trying to be best where we're at, but we are very selectively identifying a handful of opportunities each year to continue to grow our footprint across the nation. And as you can see, the growth has been quite rapid. I joined in mid 2021 and we've almost doubled since I've been here. So it's been really exciting. I get to be involved in the acquisitions on the technology and infrastructure side and rolling out tooling and just data conversion and all those sort of things. So it's been fun to see how we've even evolved those processes from what they were when I showed up to what they are now in the team, and how they've really worked with our partners to enhance those things and make it like we just did one in American Fork, Utah, South Salt Lake, and it was fantastic. It went so smooth compared to what we were doing a year and a half ago. So we can already see the benefit of some of the things we're doing on the technology side. So the growth story was really important to me. Next slide. And I don't know about you guys, but I want to make a difference. I don't want to just show up and get a paycheck. Like for me, I'm passionate about what I do. I encourage you to think about your technology soul, or whatever you call it. Like, what are the things that really make you tick, and the kinds of activities you enjoy, and how do you find a job that really drives those things for you? And for me, it was really like, I love business process. I love using technology to solve problems. I love efficiencies. I love elegant solutions to complex problems. So seeing that there's, as you understand the business in the RV industry, it's like, wow, there are some things that need some fixing here. And the other thing is the customer experience it's not great. It's the sales thing can be really fun, but like for me, our sales experience doesn't fit me. Like I like to do research online. I want to have content at my fingertips. I want to be able to shop on my own with great data. If it wants to make recommendations to me, cool. Then I can get some information and do that. But then I want to be able to show up at a dealership and look at the units and then talk to a salesperson when I'm ready to talk to a salesperson. Whereas, right now we have more of a one size fits all process. So how do we build a customer experience, whether it's service or sales or whatever, that meets the customer where they're at, whether it's a 75-year-old farmer, someone like me, or someone like yourselves. And the reality is, like, there's so much value in the data behind what we do, not just for ourselves and for our customers, but for the industry and our partnerships. So the ability to capture additional data. There's a lot of paper processes. How do we capture this data so that we can know more about what a customer likes and how that determines what rig they land on? And now we can give feedback to manufacturers about likes and dislikes, and actually evolve the products into things that consumers will like more, and enhance our manufacturer relationships and forecast our inventory more accurately, so we have the right unit at the right time for each customer. And this all starts with process and technology and data. Next slide. So here's an example of problem that I showed up. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. So most of our dealerships are in the north, so summer really is between Memorial Day and Labor Day, so there's just under 100 days. The average RV service visit is 46 days, and it's crazy. To have your rig in jail for half of your camping season, you spend all this money on this expensive unit, you're thinking about all these memories you're going to create, and now you're stuck in this poor experience. And it's even worse, like if you are trying to get warranty approval and you need parts ordered, it's like 70 something days. So this is not acceptable. Like as a person, just as a consumer, this isn't acceptable. But when I say there's rich opportunity here, think about how much we can do simply to already start shrinking these things down with the things that we control and the processes that are directly in our control, and then continue to leverage those relationships with partners to enhance that more over time. Next one. And this is just sort of driving the point home, is that really we're trying to streamline processes. We're trying to eliminate the pain or friction for the customer. We want an experience that delights the customer. Like if I had somewhere where I could go to get great content and really understand what the budget implications are for me and know that it's going to be a pain-free experience and I'm going to get a quality product, I'm going to visit that business and I'm going to do business with them every day. I'm someone that I can trust and I know is going to take care of me. Obviously, we want to drive profitability too. So better prices or more profitability for us means we can have better experience for our employees. We can pay them more. They can earn more. A lot of our positions have a lot of commission or variable comp. So, the more efficient that we can make a salesperson, the more deals that they can turn, the more money they can take home to their family, the more they can bless their community. So these are really at the core of the principles of what we're trying to do here with technology. Next slide. And the last thing for me was culture. Like you can build cool new tech, you can have investment, you can have a good growth story, but not every company is a fit for every person, right? So for me, Bish's is the largest family-owned RV dealership in the country. And that family element is really, really important to me. Like for me, my employees just aren't my employees. They're an extension of my family. I spend more time with them than my family. I want to know them. I want to know about their kids. I want to know what their challenges are. I want to know how to more effectively manage them, because we have relationship and we do trust each other and we have each other's best interests at heart. And the things that you can do when you build that kind of an environment with your team, if you're all committed to a common mission and you're all thinking of each other first and you're smart and you're passionate and you have a common North Star to point to, which we do, you can really do some cool things. So that was really for me why I chose Bish's. When I came in, I've been here about a year and a half. It was relatively immature. Some of these areas that we'll talk through had very little to no activity. I inherited about 3 or 4 people. We're about 20 now in my org, and that will continue to grow over time. And some of the things we're building still have roadmaps going into end of this year, next year, before the first iterations will show up, and other things we've been able to transform and modify on the fly and mature from immature to mildly mature or very mature. So with that, I'll sort of walk into how we've structured technology here at Bish's. Next slide. So we have four major camps of our technology group. The first one being application development. And this is like, I was a software engineer for 20 years. It's sort of the backbone of where I came from. And can you go to the next one, Kaylee? Thank you. This is where I'm most passionate. I love solving business problems through software. I love building developer teams and product groups and understanding these problems and how we can build just incredibly slick and performant applications to solve those business problems. And being from the mortgage industry, I worked with, I'm sure you guys have heard Rocket Mortgage and PNC Bank and Loan Depot, Mello, and all those things. Like those were the companies I was working with every day to really deliver data and integrations to them to enhance the customer experience. I've had a lot of time. I worked with 50 different mortgage companies and their customer experience portals, and have a lot of experience there. And then trying to bring that concept here to where we can not only revolutionize the internal customer experience, our employees, and build that foundational rock from a process perspective, but now we can pivot this into an incredibly rich customer experience, and something that just will blow the mind of people when they think this is an RV company. This feels like, Tesla, or whatever. It's just Carvana, but for RVs, whatever. So with that said, this is our biggest area of investment. This is the thing that has the longest timeline to deliver. So for us, we're working on our initial platform. So I've hired a group of software architects and senior office and software engineers that are building our core foundation of our technology stack, and it's RV agnostic. It doesn't know anything about RVs. It's just a series of reusable pieces that we could use for our internal workflows, that we could use for task prioritization for employees, that we could use for customer experience. It could be used for our industry or another industry. You know, as things grow here at Bish's, we may spin off a software company someday and just have and actually resell what we do to people in our space or in other verticals. And so we're building the foundation of this product with that mindset that we're not just solving today's problems, we're solving tomorrow problems that we can't even necessarily foresee, and really investing in that foundational platform. And then we're working on delivering our first product at the end of Q3, our first minimum viable product to the business, and that'll be our first internal workflow and task prioritization data insights platform. The roles that we need to perform those sort of things are, on the product side, we have product managers, BAs, business analysts, and designers. So obviously the designers are more doing the look and feel. They're doing UI, UX research. They're working with our internal users and running them through scenarios and trying to optimize that and give them the best experience. The BAs are focused more on the functional requirements, like, hey, here's the data we need to capture. Here's, you know, the kinds of, you know, this kind of role will need access to this, and this kind of role will need access to that instead. And then the product manager sort of oversees that group's activities. On the development side, I just listed software engineer, but really we have the full gamut here. We have senior architects, we have senior software engineers, we have software engineers, we have senior UI UX engineers. So different skill sets that are complementary. Some people are full stack, some people are very heavily focused on front end, some people are cloud native architect geniuses. And so we have, obviously, the salary ranges I gave you will vary from, like, for example, software engineer entry level at 80K to, you know, your top end senior architect, maybe, you know, 200K range. Next slide. The next team we have is a team called Digital Transformation. So this is, like, in a lot of ways, this is the precursor to that application dev team. The reality is right now we have problems in the business that we want to start to solve today. And not everything needs to have this big, rich, you know, heavy application. Not heavy is not the right word, but this, you know, expansive, exhaustive application developed to solve all the problems. There's a lot of problems that it doesn't make sense to spend that kind of time or investment doing. And in our cases, like, for example, here, we had a lot of paper processes when we first arrived here. So how do we at least start to digitize those processes so that we can capture data, so that we can start to draw insights and learn about our processes and the timing? So, for example, you saw how long it takes for an RV to get serviced. Well, how much of that time was spent in the parts ordering process, and within the pieces of the parts ordering process? How much of that was just the dispatcher for the job and service didn't know that the job was ready to be, you know, worked on? How often are we waiting on a tech to have availability? When it's paper-based, you can't even understand your business process and where your bottlenecks are, and those sort of things. So this team is really focused on, we do some low code platform stuff. We'll leverage technologies like RPA or OCR to, you know, you can build a bot if it's a repeatable activity, use RPA. Sometimes you just need to scrape, you know, information and turn it into data using things like OCR. A lot of what we're doing today is low code platforms and developing sort of like the proof of concept solutions ahead of that app dev team, so that we can already learn, evolve, and iterate in a very cost-effective way and get value to the business quickly, and then move on to that richer, deeper experience later. And this allows us, once again, to deliver insights to leadership, to the business, to the analytics team, so that we can push all this information up. This team really has a few sort of key roles. The analyst here is sort of like your business analyst on the product team. They're the one that's really studying business process. They're identifying optimization opportunities, and we're sort of prioritizing those and looking at our tools. This team does tend to spend a little bit more time focusing on what are the different tools out there that we could use to implement and solve solutions. For example, we've been using one platform called AppSheets, but it doesn't have some of the flexibilities we need. So we're looking at our low code platform called Retool for them to deliver it deals better with data instead of preloading data and things like that. So they're always looking at different tools and sort of saying, what's the optimal solution for us to deliver some value quickly to the business and iterate quickly. The DX developer is the person obviously implementing those things. And the analyst, even in this space, will often learn some of these tools, may do some configuration, scripting type things. So it tends to be a technical role. And then we have project managers that help us with the delivery of those things to the business, understanding the needs of the business. As far as like rollout, we have 23 dealerships. So when we deliver something like this, do we just roll it out to all 23 at the same time? Or do we start with certain key ones? How do we identify beta users? All those sort of things. And then I also mentioned that we do obviously acquisitions, and our project manager helps us with those kinds of activities, or if we're rolling out some sort of software solution that's third party. So for example, we just rolled out a new lead gen texting tool to the business. It's a third party solution. They're part of helping to configure and deliver those things and roll them out to the business. Next slide. Our third group is, this one's a little bit different here. So I don't know how many of you are into IT security, network engineering, information technology kind of roles. But in our particular case, we don't do all of our information or our IT in-house. So when it comes to things like phone systems, printers, desktop support, routers, switches, firewalls, those sort of things, Windows management, licensing, AD, all of that stuff, is we have a third-party group that we work with that manages those activities for us. It's really like an extended arm of our business. That said, we still have to manage and hold those people, to a certain level of performance. We need to make sure that we're working on the right strategical initiatives along with technical. And there are other things that we do from an IT perspective that are outside the bounds of where that company supports us. So we have an IT manager role that sort of helps with being a liaison to make sure that we're working on the right things at the right time. If there's a critical business need, they're a path of escalation. But we're also doing other initiatives within our world to mature our IT security positions and rolling out those initiatives. The second part of that is, as we build these internal applications and as we implement other third-party solutions, someone needs to support those. So this is the group that will take those. We don't want our developers, whether it's DX or app dev, being pulled off their work all the time. So you need a group of people that can catch those support requests from the business or from customers, to field those issues and debug them, troubleshoot them, manage the tickets that are coming in, and then only escalate those ones up to those developer type resources when absolutely needed, so that we can keep them heads down, delivering the next valuable thing. So this group will field all those things. This is a group where we do hire a lot of, at least historically for me, we've hired a lot of entry level, out of college type positions. This is a good role for someone who, I know I love technology, I'm just not sure which vein I want to go into yet. So if you're sort of in that kind of a position, and I like networking, I like databases, I like apps, I'm just not sure which one I want to specialize in my career, this is a good kind of role for if you're in that kind of a spot in your journey. The other thing is DevOps engineer. So DevOps is really think of it as a developer writes code, they check it in, and then something needs to take all that code, run the tests against it, package it, and then deliver it to whatever test, prod, staging, user acceptance environment, whatever it may be. They also manage, once those things are deployed and they're in production, how do we know if the system's down? And how do we know if something is running slow and things like that? So they do what we call observability and monitoring of these deployed software solutions. And one more. The third area, and this is sort of a split one in my world, so if there's any of you that are like data science or data analyst type majors, I do have a peer that oversees the actual analytics group. But in this case, we build basically the framework or the infrastructure that delivers the data to that group. So for example, we've implemented a data lake and serverless Lambda functions for moving stuff from the lake to our Snowflake warehouse and those sort of things. And then we also will have obviously databases behind our in-house developed app stack. So there's some different roles here. A DBA is typically more like managing maintenance and backups and access and things like that, more typically suited for your traditional transactional applications. Your data warehouse developer has now we're moving into aggregation of those data for analytical purposes. And then really the architect is the one that's sort of taking that data and modeling it for analytical purposes. So really clear to understand there's transactional data and then there's analytical data, right? And the way that you structure the schemas and the kinds of skill sets you need to have for those different roles are complementary, but not necessarily the same. So my group really, both the developers and then on the data side, support and implement these pieces to enable the analytics team to then go ahead and do their analytical reporting through Tableau and their machine learning and all the things that they will do. Next one. This is just a testimony of a few people from our team. Mike was a person that I inherited. He was actually a fabricator, a welder, and just had a strength for technology and decided to go to school. And then we inherited him after he had been at one company for a couple of years. And when I came in, there wasn't a lot of great structure from a software and product side. So it's been great for him to get exposed to new technologies and to learn what it's like to be in that team environment and to be surrounded by senior architects and senior software engineers that he can learn from and really pull him forward in his career path towards being a senior engineer, which is one of his goals. On Mikhail on the other side, she was someone that had some BA experience and some design experience, but she came from a startup that was cash starved and sort of went through that thing. So now she gets to do those activities at another level here, but with the confidence that she knows that there's going to be stability in her role and can continue to do that. And she's not only doing design on our near term stuff, but we also do a lot of 5-year planning and things like that. So she gets to get out there and build some of the cool future, what could it be kind of thing. And with that, that's sort of the main thing. That's why Bishes and what kind of roles we have here at our company. So I guess we can roll into questions.
Yeah, it looks like Michael has one. I know you were talking about being able to search for the right RV to purchase. Do you have any plans on using Chat GPT to improve the initial customer experience on the website to make purchases?
Right now, no. Chat GPT is actually pretty slick. I've been really impressed with what I've seen out of it. We haven't really thought about the implications of integrating that into what we're doing. Just to give you a little insight of where we're at with that journey. So for example, right now, our buying experience is you come in, you sit down with a salesperson, they ask you a bunch of questions, they scribble some notes on a piece of paper, they then walk into a sales manager, they share with them your information, which then the sales manager will give them 3-4 recommendations to show them units that are out in the lot in our inventory. You'll walk out on the lot, and then you'll go through and maybe you've already been to Camping World and Brett's and 3 other places, and you looked at 12 different options. And so it's like shopping for a house. It all blurs in. And I think that this one was this, and you don't really remember what you saw and which ones you liked and what the differentiators are. And we have success with that, but our goal is to turn that into something where it can go all the way to being a fully digital buying experience. So how do we go through that progression? So for us, it starts with just digitizing and capturing the information. So for us, we'll start putting an iPad in the hand of every sales outfitter, and we'll start capturing those customer attributes electronically. And then we will turn that into, we'll record what the recommendations are. And then we'll start to merge attributes to recommendations and find when do we land and when do we not land. We're going to start capturing what people like and don't like when they go out to a unit so that we can send that to you as a consumer, but also so that we can learn from that and tell our manufacturers hey, here's where you need to evolve your products and here's where you're losing, because now we will have a better relationship and we'll be able to give manufacturers insights they've never had. And then you just think about the evolution. Then that progresses. We can use machine learning and different things like that to start to improve our intelligence about customer attributes to recommendations. And now we can start to make the right recommendations. Just if you give me 6 attributes, I can give you with a 90-something% confidence, here's the 3 optimal units for you and your budget and your preferences. And now I can start to move that into a digital buying experience for the customer, where now they can do more and more of this, and they can interact with the person where and when and how they want to at their comfort, and make it more of a flexible buying experience. So there's sort of a progression there. A lot of it for us is just digitizing the process, learning from the data, and making that process iteratively better and better and better, so it becomes more automated, more data-driven, more recommendation. We're constantly learning from that data, not only for the sake of efficiency in our process for the consumer experience, but also for those partner relationships and for things like inventory modeling. Now I can know which units people are typically going to want in this geographical area. So how do we model it such that we know that we have the right units at the right price point in our inventory at all times?
Cool.
Michael,
Thank
did you have another question? Oh, there you go.
I do. It's right there.
Yeah.
Also, when you're talking the digital transformation, RPA, OCR, are you using Amazon TextTract as their form reading, Adobe OCR? I had a previous application specialist role where I was investigating the right to use. Being able to help out a company when they're in a bind with solution sounds like a lot of fun with the digital transformation team.
I'll have to go to my DX team and see what tools they actually use because I'm not the one that implements it. But we, like I said, we do a little bit of OCR. We do a little bit of RPA. A lot of what we're doing, Michael, is really heavily focused on low code right now. So we're doing a lot of low code development and delivering almost like mini future apps to the company to really digitize and start to capture these things. And even just like the movement of, it's not just capturing, like I'll give you an example. In the old days, service tech needs a part. Well, they would scribble it down on a piece of paper, right? And then they would take a picture and it's on an SD card and a camera. And now that can sit on the desk of the service desk forever before it gets to the parts person. Is it stuck in service? Is it stuck in parts? When does the parts person get it? When did they receive it? Like when we talk about the lengthy timelines of what we're doing, we don't even know where we're getting stuck, right? So for us, a lot of this is just literally starting with digitizing the process to get insights into where are the bottlenecks in the process. And then it's moving from once you identify the bottlenecks to, all right, how do we now optimize this? Yes. And how do we optimize that process? So it's like, okay, for example, why do we always wait for warranty approval from this one manufacturer? We have a great relationship when we have a high certainty that we know it's going to be approved. Why don't we just, where are we willing to have a risk tolerance in the business to move forward and potentially not have this warranty claim covered? And we're willing to eat the dollars just to shrink the customer experience or shrink the time down, improve the customer experience and get it turned. And the other thing we're doing is we're actually pivoting the whole model. So one of the cool things we've done when we think about our locations is we've actually spun up a mobile service unit in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. So we have no dealership footprint there. Nobody knows Bish is there. And we spun up a team of service techs that were like middle of the road service techs in the traditional dealership model. And we sent out 4 rigs and we had a guy managing that. And we just started advertising and doing mobile service at people's houses. And so there's all these things that go into something like that. Like you have to know what kind of jobs you can, you have to have a high likelihood of being able to fix it on the first visit. It's totally different than the dealership model today. So you have to do triage ahead of time. You have to almost like pre-diagnose. You have to get all the approvals ahead. You have to have the parts with you so that when you get there, you fix it the first time and you fix it right on that first visit, or else those people can't make money if they do that. So I don't know if you guys know what an NPS score, but it's a net promoter score. Is basically you send out surveys to your customers and they rate you 0 through 10. If you're 0 through 6, you're a detractor. If you're 7 or 8, you're a passive. If you're 9 or 10, you're a promoter. So your promoters will tell other people about your business, say you should use Bishes because they're awesome. A 0 through 6 will be like, they're terrible, never use them, go somewhere else. And a 7 or 8, well, they probably won't even talk about you ever. And so the math of an NPS score is promoters minus detractors over the total. And so if you're neutral, you have a 0. Like Costco is the gold standard of NPS and they're a 70. Our service is typically about a 40, which is actually pretty good, even though I think our service is not great. But that mobile service group, their NPS was 92. So it's like, okay, what lessons can we learn from this customer experience? These aren't like the most, these techs are sort of rough around the edges. But there's something about this experience that's different, that the customer is now a raving advocate when they didn't even know who Bish's was. We didn't sell them the rig. We're just solving their problem. We're meeting them where they're at, and we're giving them an experience that they will really, really enjoy. And so we're learning from that. And so we're revolutionized through these low code platforms and eventually through our bigger app stack. We're revolutionizing this process of how do we intake, diagnose, do it through digital tools. We're leveraging tools like SiteCall to do, control people's phones and take pictures and get video and do all these things, and then get all the parts and warranty things ahead, determine through data where we're willing to move forward and not wait. And so that way, when they show up, it gets in, it gets fixed same day, and then they're out. And now instead of having 46 days, it's same day, which is really our goal from a service perspective.
It looks like Dane has 3 more questions in there. Is the backbone of Bish's tech stack ASP.NET MVC?
So we are AWS, so we're not doing Azure or anything else. So we're staying in AWS. We're not trying to be cloud agnostic. We are a .NET shop, so we are heavy on the Microsoft technologies. We are going pretty heavy into serverless lambdas with DynamoDB, so NoSQL, and so that's where we're putting. Authentication. We're using things like Okta. So that's sort of our core backbone of what we're just starting to build out. Once again, we're about 2 or 3 months into this initial build out. We've gone from 2 engineers to 8 just in the last month. I think, I had 4 engineers join us in January. So we're in the infancy of building out this platform. And that we'll be able to start actually showing pieces of the app starting to be hooked up on our Compass platform, which is what we call our internal workflow, over the next couple of months. ML.net. I have not. I would have to ask my team. Is there a great deal of tech? Okay, so that's a great question on the migration. So one of the problems that I've seen when I came into this world was that there is no really good one-stop shop solution to really meet all needs. So for us, what we're looking at is a combination of tools and determining when do we build versus when do we buy or borrow. So for example, I'm not going to go build an HR system for our company because there's already a lot of great solutions out there that we can integrate to. I'm not necessarily going to go build an accounting or ERP system. But in our world, what they have what's called DMS, which is dealer management systems. And all of them, to be just frank, are poor, and the technology is antiquated, and they don't have processes to be responsive to their customer bases, and they just can't keep up. And so you can choose among the 3 or 4 top ones, but none of them really meet the needs of a company like us who really wants to push the envelope and grow. So for us, as we build this app stack out, basically what will happen is we'll pull pieces of functionality out of these systems little by little by little. And then we will deprecate those systems over time. But we are going to do a combination of in-house built versus integrated third-party solutions. So like Okta, for example, I'm not going to go build an authentication service. I'm going to leverage Okta as an authentication model for us. And then cloud hybrid, we are fully cloud. We're not doing anything on-prem. So like I said, it'll all be like serverless Lambda functions, AWS, we're doing all of our event pieces through there, Event Bridge, we're doing CloudWatch. And so heavily reliant on the AWS offerings, integrating those together, RDS on the data side. And then once again, we'll be pushing data over to Snowflake for our analytics group from a warehouse perspective.
Great questions. Are there any more questions? None?
I have a few, if I could just go
Sure.
ahead.
Yeah, go right ahead.
What do you foresee the life cycle of your current projects being for time?
As far as time to delivery, or how long before we'll need to redo them again?
Time to delivery.
Yeah. So for us, so delivery is always a conversation of how much are you willing to invest? In other words, how many resources? What's the scope of the activity, right? So for us, obviously on DX, it's our time to delivery is very short. We're delivering those bi-weekly all the time to the business. On our app dev side, it is a longer cycle. So like I said, our investment into the platform, and then the first MVP of our Compass application, which is our first product line built on the platform. We're targeting like I said, end of Q3, beginning of Q4 for that first version. And then of course, we'll continue to add more and more and more to that over time. And then we'll move more into the customer experience side. So our timeline right now is we're probably 7-8 months for this first MVP to come out. And then we'll obviously at that point, then we're a Scrum shop. So we'll be delivering value every 2 weeks to the business with our sprintly cadence. And then at some point we'll decide to really focus as well on our customer portal side of things, whether it's mobile native or PWA, make those decisions. And then as we refine some of these internal processes, start to expose more and more of that experience directly into the hands of the customer. So the customer side of it is going to be a little bit more 2024. The internal customer and workflow engines are really going to be delivered this year, and then will continue to be obviously grown throughout the years to come.
Do you personally oversee the interview process?
For developers or?
Yeah, software engineers.
my dev manager typically has been the initial person that vets and sort of does that sanity check. So our interview process for software engineers, it typically starts with the dev manager. They'll do the initial sort of, screening, I guess you could call it. And then the people that make it sort of past that initial screening will meet with the team. So we do want that person to get to talk to the architects and the lead engineers. We really we're a tight unit. The culture of the internals of this group is really, really important to us. We want to make sure that we're very like-minded, and as far as how we attack things, how we want to work, our processes, so we do really want to make sure it's a good fit for both the person joining us and for the existing team. So the second interview is typically with our senior architect, maybe a senior UI UX engineer, 2 or 3 people, and you're not getting grilled or anything like that. It's a back and forth conversation, just learning about each other, learning about your proficiency in certain technologies. How does that work well with us? How do we work? It's meant to be a bi-directional conversation. Depending on the role after that, especially if it's more of a senior person, I typically will just do hey, let's meet, I want to get to know you. The more entry level or more junior devs, I'll get to know them over the course of time just by working with them. And we are a distributed team. So I'm in Idaho Falls. We have some here. We have some in Boise. I have people in Indiana. I have people in Salt Lake. I have people in Oregon. So we do have remote employees and we are distributed. So I do like to take some time to get to know people, but it's more just team fit, here's the vision. Is this the right fit for you? I'm not really, if it's made it to me, you're probably already going to get hired if you want the job.
Is there a code problem section of the interview?
No, they don't actually run you through that specific kind of a test. They will talk through scenarios with you about certain technologies, or if you're advertising, hey, I have experience in Entity Framework, they may ask you specific questions about challenges you ran into or things that they have experienced. If you're, saying you're great at cloud native architecture or you're terrific at infrastructure as code and you really know Terraform, they're probably going to pick your brain on, hey, so this is a common problem that we've hit when implementing infrastructure as code with Terraform, blah, 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 those sort of things. So it'll be more situational based off of the role, your skill set, that you've advertised that you have our needs. And so I would say it's more like that.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
I have some additional questions.
Sure.
You said that remote positions are available, and I'm based in Florida, and I saw that you don't have any locations here. I was in South Carolina back in September and October of last year for a little bit. I'm wondering if Bish offers any kind of relocation assistance, or if they would rather a person work remote, and then maybe eventually, if the person decides to move into an area where there are Bish locations, integrating into the office over there.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So I think, so what we'll want to do is we'll sort of want to divide the question into a couple of things. So there's dealerships and then there's corporate, right? So the picture I showed you with all the locations, that's really all the dealership locations. So the reality is we actually do as a team, I go into the dealerships and I meet the team and I learn from them. And when we're rolling tools out, I want to get feedback, and, they're consuming what we build and deliver. So we want to get to know these people. We want to spend some time in the dealership. We want to understand the business. The better I understand the business, the better we can deliver value to the business. So is there value to being geographically located near a dealership? Yes. Will we eventually have a place in Florida? Probably. Is that critical for this particular team, which is more of what I would call a corporate role? Not necessarily. And like I said, I have a guy in Indiana. Now, Indiana happens to be the home of RV manufacturing, which I did not know until I joined the company. So there is actually exciting things for him relative to manufacturers, but there's not a dealership around the corner from him. So the fact that you're not geographically distributed or located right next to a dealership, that's not problematic from a software engineer or whatever your particular skill set is role. We do obviously already have remote people that are part of a team. For me personally, I like people to have a little bit more, like if you have a experience of being successful in a remote role, that's valuable to know versus I've never worked remotely and I'm not sure if I'll be good at it. So there are things like that that we'll want to understand. I personally am a fan of co-location. I like, for example, I had 6 of my engineers in here with me yesterday. It was great. Just, you can build a bond as a team through this kind of an experience, but it only goes so far because most of the time when we're in meetings, we're working on a specific activity. We're grooming, we're doing a retro, we're planning, we're designing, and then we're off doing our work in isolation. So it does sometimes create challenges to grow that camaraderie and that unity of the team when you're in that environment. I think you miss, like, sometimes the chatter can be disruptive and like you feel like you're more productive. If I can just be left alone and just hack out some code, man, I'll go all night. Like, and that's what I was as an engineer. Like, I just want to write code and like I lose track of time. And all of a sudden it's like midnight. I'm like, whoa, who knew? And that's great. Like I miss those days because I'm not that guy anymore and I can't write a line of code to save my life now. So I appreciate that perspective. But at the same point in time, I was a singular standalone consultant developer for 6 years. And I can't tell you how much I missed having those peers and those relationships and the ability to learn or bounce ideas off each other. And even just when you're in a cube next to someone, hearing the conversation, finding you have a common interest. So we definitely promote remote. We know that that's just part of the world now, especially I, as a manager, feel like there is valuable co-location. So if there was an opportunity where it's like, hey, I start remote and then I love the company, this really is the fit for me, I'm willing to relocate. Is there something we can do to help each other at situation? I think we just evaluate those situations and we navigate it together, is how I would say. It's not a requirement, but I do think it's valuable to be with your team where you can.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. I know I've been in the Pacific Northwest. I vacationed there last year. It's beautiful. It's amazing up there. Yeah.
I'm actually from upstate New York, so Idaho was totally mind blowing for me, seeing the mountains, and it's just a whole totally different world.
Yeah, a lot of
I was going to say
sequoias.
minus the wind chill, apparently.
Yeah, Idaho Falls is, not for everyone. I'm just going to say that, right? I'm thinking that we will co-locate in Florida in the winter, and then we'll co-locate in Idaho in the summer because it's spectacular here in the summer. It is wonderful.
There are so many, I guess, campgrounds and RV parks in Florida because a lot of people come here to vacation and a lot of people want to be here half the year. So they take their RVs down and they camp out over here. I'm not sure if any of these RVs are Bish RVs, but I'm sure some of them are. Sure.
Yeah, I was from New York, so that's where all the snowbirds went. And my grandparents used to stay down in Florida, so we would go down to Florida all the time. That was where, now it sort of turned into the Carolinas over time, but yeah, Florida was like you want to get away from the winter, so a lot of people would just go south and stay there. And that's the interesting thing. Like when you look at when you think about that growth equation, I see Dane used to ask the question there related to growth. It's like, with COVID, it introduced like a whole new sector of people that want to like lifestyle RV, like people. And you look at housing prices and man, I can live in an RV and then be where I want to be. I can work remotely now because I don't have to be in an office anymore and I can go where I want to go and I can live that life I want to live. So it's really created a whole like niche of different kinds of buyers that are having just such a more flexible life experience, but still hold down a steady job, and it gives them the mobility they want. So, for me, I think that's super cool.
Sure.
So Dane, you asked about previous growth experiences and impressive growth projection for the next 3 to 5 years. And if the target isn't met, how likely are tech projects to be reduced, canceled? So growth projection for the next 3 to 5 years, I have to be careful because we're private. I can't say dollar amounts, but what I can tell you is that we will continue to acquire. I think the rate recently has been, anywhere from 3 to 5 businesses a year. Will that accelerate? Possibly. We are getting much better at acquisitions. A lot of it just depends on finding the right acquisitions that are right for us. There is the industry is undergoing a lot of consolidation, and sort of what you're seeing is there are a lot of people it was family businesses, and they made a nice, comfortable $100,000-$200,000 a year, and they had 1 or 2 shops, and now the children are coming up and they don't want to do the RV thing. So that's you have a lot of scenarios like that, or hey, I put my time in, I just want to go in and do something else. So there is a lot of consolidation going on in the industry. Like I said, we are not trying to be the biggest. So there's a lot of companies out there that are far more aggressive, that are willing to overpay at valuations that we aren't willing to pay. We're going to be thoughtful. We're going to do deals that make sense for our business, that don't handicap us from a financial flexibility perspective. We are very, very thoughtful about the culture of the businesses. We're very, very thoughtful about the growth story and like products, like what products can we even sell in this market? It's like the RV industry is like car dealerships. So if you have a Chevy dealership, you can't put another different Chevy dealership 2 miles from it. Like you can't do that. RV industry is the same thing. So we can't sell the same products at every single location because of existing agreements other manufacturers have with other dealerships. So we take all these things very thoughtfully into consideration, and we don't try to grow just for the sake of growing. We want to grow where it makes sense and where we think we can really take that business that's already good and make it great. So the actual numbers, are we going to be 50 dealerships and 2 billion or whatever? I can't necessarily share all the gritty details there, but yes, we do expect to be stronger in each market we're currently located in. And we do expect to grow through acquisition in a very thoughtful, manner. And if this isn't met, how likely are tech projects to be reduced, canceled? So I'll just share something with you from my perspective. I've worked in cyclical industries for 20 years. I worked in mortgage, which mortgage is crazy cyclical. I've never laid off a person in 20 years of managing software teams. So I always make sure that as a leader, I'm balancing what we do and how we hire and how we pay and do those things, and the kinds of things that we undertake in a balanced, measured perspective, such that it is, I'm not pushing the boundaries of what the business tolerance is for these things. And of course, maybe the business wants to go faster. So we have to balance, all right, what's the investment for that? And do we do some of that through consultative help? Do we do all that through full-time hires? So I wouldn't say that I would expect tech projects to be reduced or canceled. You may have things, for example, like, hey, we were projecting to hire 3 more engineers in Q2, but we're coming in under budget. So can we delay those hires for an additional 6 months? Okay, yeah, we can do that. And here's the impact to schedule. And here's, so is the ROI to take on this investment of additional resources worth, either delivering this thing earlier, or is it better and safer for us to delay the investment and to push out the deliverable? So really, for me, those conversations are always just you're balancing, speed and spend. We can spend more and go really fast. We can spend less and go a little slower. And it's my job to manage those expectations with the business and make sure that we have a team that's right size, that we're not putting too much pressure on to deliver unrealistic expectations and those sort of things, so that we're enabling them to just focus on the task at hand, build cool tech, enjoy their jobs, enjoy working with their peers, and deliver awesome value to the business.
Yeah, good question. Are there any more questions? I think we could do one more if there's not. Awesome. Okay, well, thanks everyone for joining today. If you're interested in, continuing this conversation, feel free to reach out to myself at recruiting@bishes.com, and we can, continue the conversation that way. I would definitely recommend attending any of the other sessions that we'll be hosting. These are the upcoming ones, the 22nd to the 15th of March. If you can't make any of those, all sessions are recorded and posted on our Handshake company profile, as well as our YouTube channel. And those will be by the end of each week. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. David, thanks for, talking us through that and answering all these questions. And I appreciate everyone hopping on today. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And real quick,
if
anyone wants to reach out to me, I shared my LinkedIn above, but you can just search me on LinkedIn, David Platt. Feel free to reach out. If there's questions I couldn't answer, or deeper, more specific ones where it makes sense for me to reach out to one of my subject matter experts and get you better answers, I can definitely do that as well. So it's nice to meet y'all, and thank you for the time.
Thanks everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you.